Part 1. The blast shattered the quiet dawn of Montana. The chestnut mare that Lena Redbird was taming reared up, throwing her from the saddle. She hit the frozen ground hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard footsteps crunching over the ice. A shadow fell across the snow, and the gun in that hand was still smoking. "Do not move." Lena let out a dry laugh. "As if I could." Nell, before the story of a half Apache horse trainer and a rancher with a frozen heart begins, tell me where you are listening from, and do not forget to hit subscribe, because this Montana winter is about to heat up with fire, faith, and one fateful collision. The first light of day slid across the rugged face and cold grey eyes of Colt Merrick, owner of the Lazy Spur Ranch. A man known for never hiring women, especially not anyone half Apache. But that was exactly why Lena came here, to prove that trust could tame even the wildest horses and the most stubborn men in all of Montana. "What the hell are you doing on my land?" Colt growled. "Teaching your horse to trust people," Lena shot back. "By risking your life." She gritted her teeth. "I do it better than your men." 10 minutes earlier, she had been this close to making that wild horse surrender. Then bang! The world tilted. And from that moment, the collision between two lost souls began. Part 2. A boy, about 10 years old, ran barefoot out of the log house, his feet sinking into the snow. "Tate," Colt barked. "Get Dr. Harper. Tell him her back might be broken." Hoofbeats faded into the distance. Lena lay still, her breath mingling with the pale mist of cold air. Before her stood a man whose grey eyes were as hard as stone, staring at her like she was a puzzle he had never solved. "You have been spying on my ranch for weeks, have you not?" Colt asked. "Someone had to care about your horses. By trespassing on my land? By saving them." The wind swept through, sharp and cold, carrying the weight of tension. Colt hesitated, then said, "It will take Dr. Harper 2 hours to get here. You stay out here, you will freeze to death. I am taking you inside." "You try it, and I swear." "Try it? I am doing it." He bent down and lifted her, as if she weighed nothing. The smell of wood smoke, horse leather, and whiskey filled the quiet house. Colt set her down on the sofa, poured a drink into a tin cup, and held it out. "Drink. It will warm you up." Lena looked at his scarred hands, and those eyes that carried both anger and loss, and she realized something. Maybe this was a man who had forgotten how to trust, and she was the fool who had come to teach him again. Part 3. Lena woke to dim light and low voices, Dr. Harper's calm tone mixed with Colt's short replies, and Tate's worried voice outside the door. A cold hand traced down her spine, making her hold her breath. Words drifted in and out. Severe sprain, not broken, absolute rest for at least 3 weeks. "She is lucky," the doctor said, his tone half scolding. 1 inch more, and she would have been paralyzed. "She has nowhere to go," Colt replied. Lena opened her eyes. What did you say?" "She stays here," Colt said firmly. The doctor looked up. "Are you sure?" "She came here for work. Now she cannot walk, and I have space. I will cover her treatment and medicine." Lena tried to sit up, but pain lashed down her back, blackening her vision. "I do not need your pity." "This is not pity," Colt said, folding his arms. "It is logic. You cannot ride, cannot walk. The inn in town will not take in someone who is hurt. And the convent," his eyes darkened, "they will not take you either, Redbird." She went silent, because he was right. The convent that had raised her had long shut its doors to half-breeds. "I will check on her in 2 days," Dr. Harper said, packing up his bag. "Keep her warm, keep her still, and if she tries something stupid, tie her down." "I am not stupid," Lena muttered. "You are stubborn," Colt replied softly. different thing. Zit. When the doctor left, silence filled the room except for the crackle of fire in the stove. Tate crept closer, his wide eyes curious. Are you really staying? Looks like it, Lena said, with a faint smile. Can you really talk to horses? Better than most so-called Western heroes, she teased. Colt sat across from her, his face hard but weary. You will work to pay back when you recover. Start with the horse you left unfinished. And if I cannot? Then we will figure something else out. But I saw you with that horse. He paused. You have real talent, Lena. The words were soft, but they warmed her chest. It had been so long since anyone had looked at her as someone who mattered, not just a half-breed. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. Colt turned toward the fire, his fingers brushing a framed photo, a woman with a gentle smile and eyes just like Tate's. My wife died 2 years ago, he said slowly. This house died with her. I have not known how to live again. Maybe. He looked up at Lena, his eyes meeting hers like a confession. Maybe you will help me remember. Part 4. 3 weeks later, Lena Redbird still could not ride, but the Lazy Spur Ranch no longer felt like a tomb. Tate the boy with endless questions and careful hands had become her patient companion. Do horses get sad? He asked once. Of course, Lena said, when people teach them to forget how to trust. Every time Colt overheard that, he stayed quiet a little longer. At night, he sat at the table, writing in his ledger under the oil lamp's soft glow. Lena lay on the couch, listening to the steady scratch of his pen, the heartbeat of a house, learning to live again. Slowly, she began to notice the details, the scars on his hands, the black coffee every morning, the distant look in his eyes when Tate laughed. He had once had a wife, Mara, who disappeared with the winter 2 years ago. Since that day, Colt had lived out of duty, burying his heart beneath the snow. But now, in the crackle of fire and the sound of Tate's laughter, he realized that Lena was not just saving the horses, she might be saving what was left of him. Part 5. As winter tightened its grip on Montana, Lena Redbird finally returned to the stables. The chestnut mare, the one who had thrown her, stepped forward and touched her muzzle gently to Lena's palm. All right, old friend, let us start over. The sight stopped Colt in his tracks by the fence. The woman who had once nearly broken her spine now stood among wild horses, with a calm so deep that even the mountain wind seemed to bow to it. Rumors spread fast. At Lazy Spur Ranch, a half Apache woman could make wild horses bow their heads. People came from all over, bringing broken horses and a little hope. Lena worked tirelessly. Tate mimicked her every move. Colt watched, silent and steady. One afternoon, Lena placed her first pouch of earnings on the table. For the food and the roof, she said. Colt shook his head. You have earned more than that. Let us call it a partnership. No. From that day, they were partners not just in work, but in every quiet heartbeat that slowly began to find the same rhythm. Part 6. On a February night so cold that breath turned to frost, Lena jolted awake at the sound of frantic neighing. Without thinking, she threw on her coat, grabbed the Winchester, and ran into the snow. 4 starving wolves circled the corral, eyes glowing like coals. She raised the rifle. The first shot missed, the second hit the alpha square in the chest. From the shadows, Colt appeared. Get back! They fired in turn, each shot echoing through the mountains. When the last 3 wolves fled, Tate came running with a torch, his hands shaking. Is it over? Not yet, Colt said, his voice rough with smoke. They will be back if we do not fix the fence. So the 3 of them worked through the freezing night, Colt driving stakes, Lena tying wire, Tate holding the flame. Their breaths mingled into clouds of white. When dawn finally came, the fence stood strong again. Colt looked at Lena, her hair a tangled mess, her coat torn, her hands smeared with wolf blood, her eyes blazing like fire. "You could go inside now," he said quietly. "Your horses are my horses too," she replied. And in that moment, Colt understood what trembled in his chest was no longer fear. Part 7. The first blush of dawn spread across the snow as Colt walked toward her. Their breaths met in the icy air. "Lena," he said hoarsely, "there is something I need to tell you. If you are about to send me away—" "Send you away?" Colt gave a rough laugh. "I am trying to figure out how to make you stay forever." Lena froze, her hands resting on the fence. Colt: "I know I am not perfect," he said, eyes raw with honesty. "I still carry scars. I still have a boy who needs a mother more than I need a wife. But I love you, Lena. Maybe I did from the moment you cursed at me in Apache." Her throat tightened. "And what about Mara?" Colt drew a slow breath. "Love does not end. She wanted me to live again, and you made that possible." From the stable, Tate shouted, "Pa, Lena, are you two done? I am starving." They both burst out laughing, and in that laughter, Colt touched her cheek gently. "The question is, do you want to stay?" Lena looked up at the glowing sky. "I do, with you, Tate, and these horses." Part 8. A week later, the living room of Lazy Spur Ranch glowed with firelight. It was the smallest wedding in all of Montana. No flowers, no music, only melting snow outside the window, Dr. Harper as witness, and Tate in a white shirt, proudly standing as best man. Lena wore a pale blue dress, simple but radiant. On her wrist was a silver bracelet that had once belonged to Mara, a gift Colt gave her with a whisper. "Love does not replace, it continues." There, Tate read a poem he had written himself, "For those brave enough to believe again." His voice trembled, but it was enough to bring tears to their eyes. When they exchanged rings, the spring wind swept through, carrying the scent of grass and the distant sound of horses. That night, the three of them sat together on the wooden porch. Tate dozed between them, head on Lena's shoulder. Colt wrapped an arm around his wife and asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" Lena smiled. "That sometimes the best things begin with a gunshot and one foolish decision." Colt laughed, and a near broken back. "Worth it?" she said, and kissed him under the stars. If you loved this story, like, subscribe, and share for more tales of love and courage from Gunsmoke and Rose. Your support is our greatest inspiration. Thank you for riding with us.